Hi, this is Kate here. I'm the nurse educator from Women's Health Network. I'm so glad that you're joining us today for an interesting interview type discussion with our bone health expert, Dr. Susan Brown. Um, Susan is a nutritionist and medical anthropologist who has done tons of research in bone health and for many years. And is one of the experts on our panel here at Women's Health Network, and it's such a privilege and a delight to get to speak with her every time I do. So I'm glad that you're able to join us. Susan is joining us from her clinic, the Center for Better Bones in Syracuse, New York. And how are you today, Susan? Thanks for being here.
I'm doing very well, Kate. Pleasure to be with you today.
Yeah, as always, so good to see you. So we have some information about you, Susan, on our website in the About Us homepage, but I wanted to give our viewers an opportunity to kind of learn a little bit more about you. I'm hoping you can tell us a little about, first of all, why you decided to get into the area of bone health research.
Well, actually, that's a good question, Kate. I began my career as an anthropologist and mainly worked in South America, the Caribbean. I was beginning to look at diet and disease around the world. What sort of health problems were there? Why did different cultures have different health problems? And then along the way of doing anthropology, which I really loved, I got very interested in my own personal health and the health of my family. And I always tell the story that my grandmother, at the age of 101, fell in the bathtub and broke her hip. And of course, we always wonder why she was in the bathtub at 101. She lived alone. She was an amazingly strong person. My father saw her every day, but still, she was alone in the bathtub, fell, broke a hip at 101. And a year later, she died. And I always wondered how long she would have lived, because she was such a strong person, if she didn't fracture that hip. And about the same time, my dentist told me, you have some receding gums. And I knew that receding gums were an early sign of bone loss. So I got kind of fascinated with osteoporosis, with bones becoming weak. And I started looking around the world to see what cultures did people have really strong bones and what cultures did people tend to fracture a lot. I found that there was a vast difference. In some countries, people fractured very little, even as they aged. In other cultures like ours, there was quite a few fractures. Maybe 1 out of 3 women will have a significant fracture. So I began to study all that. And generally, I would have to confess that I became fascinated with health as a child and understanding just enamored with the magic of the human body, that you have 100 trillion cells. Every cell does 1,000 things every second. Every cell knows what every other cell does. So I was always thinking, how can we use this intelligence to gain better health? And for myself, how can I have even better health? And so it's been a fun journey, looking to see how we can maximize health by working with nature, particularly how we can maximize bone health, how we can have strong immunity, how we can have healthy joints, all of those things.
And it's so interesting. I always find it fascinating to hear how someone starts their journey, and often there's that personal connection, that personal interest or personal experience. So that is a good question with your grandmother, otherwise healthy people. Once there's a fracture, there is a huge decline often. Really lots of room for valuable research there.
And that inquiry of where in the world do people fracture the same all over, it just led me to rethink the whole of osteoporosis. And that led into our first book, Better Bones, Better Body, which really was very groundbreaking, questioning all the assumptions that it's due to low calcium, it's due to low estrogen, that it happens naturally all over the world. So many assumptions that now the medical community has taken on and realized that these were not necessarily true. And now it's really fun to look back and say my own personal questions led to some significant change in the field.
Yeah, that's huge. So you have been with us with Women's Health Network for a long time. We've been working with you for about 7 years.
Yes, right.
Yeah. How did you take your career path from bone health research into wanting to be a part of Women's Health Network?
Well, I always saw people clinically. So I was always a nutritionist that practiced with people. Did a lot of work with autoimmune disease, with great success, and a lot of work with bone health. But then I had the opportunity to think, well, I know enough. We can develop a better approach to bone health, and I would like to be able to help many women, especially today, when really there's some not so beneficial medical approach to bone health, where basically we've gotten confused and we're just looking at these bone density measurements and they really can't predict fracture. And many women are becoming terrorized, actually, are totally upset because they've been told they have a low bone density. And so I really wanted to bring to women the broader perspective on bone health, the rethinking of osteoporosis, and in particular to bring to women a very good program where they could work with that magical body they have to actually maximize bone health and to recover bone health and to live fracture-free or to heal from a fracture if they have a fracture. So when I began to know you all at Concordia, I said, what a great opportunity, because so many women come to you looking for knowledge, for advice. And I have to admit, it's been a great 7 years. We have actually produced the best website in the world on bone health, betterbones.com. There's a new book that I produced on acid alkaline food guide, which really looks at bone health related to pH balance. That's in several languages. It's a bestseller book now. Really a great opportunity to produce protocols. We've championed the idea that if you have a bone problem, you should look for the causes and not just simply take a medication. And our website is full of self-help approaches and information. So I'm very grateful to bring to the world a whole natural perspective on how to maximize and maintain bone health.
Well, the information that you have provided to us, that you have on womenshealthnetwork.com, and we're constantly referring people to betterbones.com.
Right.
It's really the most comprehensive resource that I've seen anywhere as far as the bone health information, holistically, looking.
Yes. In fact, it's because of our work together, we've been able to make the best website in the world on natural bone health. I mean, it's very gratifying to become and to be recognized as a thought leader in this field and to be able to help thousands of women. It's and everyone should take advantage. You don't need to become an expert, but you can become informed enough to take care of your own bone health.
Exactly. To be your best and to feel your best. And that's all that we're trying to do, is empower women to know what they're up against and to advocate for themselves and provide themselves the best support. So
and that's actually what most impressed me with Concordia, was that actually it was a group that was looking to see how can we improve the lives of women? How can we empower women? And that's just what I was doing in my career. But now we joined together, we can do it on a much bigger scale.
Which is awesome. It's been a great experience for us. And it sounds like for you as well.
Yeah.
So that's where you were and where you are, and what's coming up for you. What kind of goals are you working on now, Susan? Professionally, personally, what have you got going on?
Well, the body's pretty magical. You could spend your whole life studying one single bone cell. It is so amazingly orderly, and there's such great intelligence that runs through and directs the human body, that what we're looking at, I've been asked to look at particular problems. One of the projects we have right now is I've been asked by a group of physicians to look at how heavy metals affect bone health. And that's a very interesting thing, because we store, just really quickly, we store like lead in our bones when we're exposed to it. When we give birth to a child, when we make a child in our wombs, we give some of that lead to the child. When we breastfeed it, we give it to the child. And much of the lead is stored in our bones. Even at menopause, when we start to lose bone, which is really a natural process, that lead goes back into the body and can cause some problems. So I'm looking at lead, mercury, cadmium. How do they affect bone health? And more particularly, how can you know if any heavy metal is a problem? and what kind of simple natural treatments could you take to help reduce that burden. So that's kind of a very new thing I've been asked to do. An older thing, which I've been doing for decades, which we're sticking right with, is looking at acid-base balance, this idea of an alkaline diet, this idea that you lose bone because the bone has to buffer with its substance acidity from an imbalanced diet. So we're working again on that. I may very well do a new trade book on that. The book we have, the Acid Alkaline Food Guide, is very popular. People all over the world appreciate that pH balance is central to good health. So we're working on those things, and then we're working on exercise. Exercise is the most fun thing. Exercise is the greatest way to build bone health. And to exercise, you have to feel strong. You have to feel good. And as we all move on in age, as I move on in age, we're thinking about longevity. How can we maintain health for a long, long time? How can we plan today for 20, 30 years? How can we look and say, what do I want to look like? How do I want to look like in 20, 30 years? And then that gives us a little more care with what we do today. So those are the things we're working on, and I'm happy to be working on them with Concordia. And I hope everyone subscribes to our blog. BetterBones.com has a subscription. You'll learn tips every week about bone health and tips to, to live a strong, healthy life for a long, long time.
Absolutely. It's so important and so easy to get that information if you're going to the right place. So, Susan, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me this morning. We'll have more conversations coming up soon, more hangouts, and of course, it's always a treat. Pardon me. Always a treat when we get to speak. So enjoy. I know you said you're heading out to a meditation class. Is that right?
Yes, I'm taking the whole course with my meditation guru, Saima, and we're looking forward to that. And I wish everyone a peaceful day and great health.
Excellent. Thank you. And the same to you, Susan.
Okay.
Everybody check back soon and for more hangouts and more interviews with our experts. Always feel free to head to womenshealthnetwork.com. On the homepage, you'll see all of our expert panel and a little bit of bio information about them as well, if you're interested. So check back soon. We'll see you.
Check back soon. Bye-bye.
Bye, Susan.